According to Wikipedia, there are 1.28 million sworn law enforcement officers serving in the United States. About 137,000 of those officers work for federal law enforcement agencies. That number is higher than what I normally read. Usually they estimate about 800 to 900,000 sworn law enforcement officers in the country. Looking at it from a different angle, there are approximately 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the United States of America. 18,000. 18,000 law enforcement agencies, and let's just say 1 million sworn law enforcement officers in the United States. Anyone see the problem? What's the difference between these two? And I'm not talking about the time span, I'm not talking about the equipment they carry or the color, style of their uniforms. I'm talking about what's the difference between the two in terms of how they think. What's going on in their mind? Everyone has a mission, and these two are no exception. Like the guy on the right, he had a mission at the time, didn't he? Well, what was the mission, and did he stay true to it? Did he honor whatever promises he made? How about we review his mission? Engage in targeted harassment, engage with violence if necessary, engage in intrigue and subterfuge, follow orders, to deny humanity, to maintain unbridled loyalty, to protect fellow redcoats at all costs, to enforce all edicts, tyrannical or otherwise, to exercise total domination over the population, indeed, to engage in abject subjugation of the people, to show them who the boss was, and to step out of line carried a cost. To remind them who the boss was. They were required to swear an oath of fealty and allegiance to the King of England, but they had something even better than that. They had their own bootlickers. At the time they were called loyalists, and about 20% of the colonists identified themselves as British loyalists, loyal to the crown. So how do you vote? Do you think the average redcoat at the time did everything in their power to honor the oath that they swore to the king and to stay true to their mission? Well, sure they did. I mean, if they didn't, they were going to end up being flogged and sent home in disgrace, or, worst case scenario, they'd have been summarily executed. I suppose it's possible that redcoats back then had access to union reps, but since I wasn't there, I don't know. It's time we turn our attention to the dude on the left. Contemporary American police officer. How do you think he's going to stack up to his red-coated counterpart, huh? Let's take a look. The mission of a contemporary American police officer is simple. You be professional, enforce the laws fairly and uniformly without regard to, and you know the list, and honor your oath to the Constitution. And that's it. Be fair, be respectful, honor your oath to the Constitution. So why do we still have this?
Disturbing video. New Jersey officers dragging and beating an innocent man on fire. 6-mile police chase in June ended in a fiery crash. In the cell phone video, you see 28-year-old Miguel Feliz escaping from one of the cars, engulfed in flames, ripping off his clothes. Jersey City police approach, guns drawn. One officer kicks him, then another, before the group of officers drags him into the street. But police had the wrong man. The real suspect, 48-year-old Leo Pinkston, had slammed into Feliz's car as he fled from police. He was captured nearby. Feliz, who was critically injured in the crash, has hired an attorney. The 4 officers, each facing multiple charges.
We think that our actions spoke to keeping the public trust in our police department, that we're not going to tolerate this.
David, those 4 officers have been suspended indefinitely without pay. 2 commanders have also been reassigned due to the police department's internal investigation.
In other words, the 2 commanders would have helped cover it up. Probably going so far as to help coach the officers on how to write it up in their report. 6 officers from one agency who knowingly conspired to violate the oath that they took to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. That is the only thing that we have that protects us from them. That old piece of parchment that's been in existence for about 250 years, it's a concept, it's an idea. It just floats out there in the ether somewhere. But if it weren't for that, this would be commonplace. There wouldn't be a United States of America without that Constitution. Even the dumbest bird knows you don't go shitting in your own nest. But the only ones who don't seem to understand that simple concept is the average contemporary American police officer. Some of you might remember me talking about how you can ask cops challenge questions. Hey officer, what's a Carroll search? You don't have to know the answer, you just have to know to ask the question. But the answer happens to be it's a probable cause search of a motor vehicle. There are all sorts of very simple challenge questions. But now I'm going to give you the ultimate challenge question. I mean, it goes to the heart of everything. And it can be asked by anyone, anywhere, at any time, in any company. And the question is very simple. Officer, are we better off with or without our Constitution? You know what they're going to say. We're better off with it. Then why don't you start acting like it? Why don't you start acting like you actually believe that? Well, I'm not going to say any more than that. I don't want to get this into something that's scripted and people think that they have to follow whatever I think they should say. It's not like that at all. The bottom line is, it brings everything back to center. It focuses on what matters. And what matters is our Constitution. Plain and simple. With 18,000 agencies and nearly 1 million armed and badged oppressors, how much longer do we reasonably expect the Constitution to last if we don't do our job and hold them accountable? This is why courts are our enemy, because they're friends of them, but they're not friends of us. Oh, but we're not done yet, because we haven't finished talking about the bootlickers. They're the primary enablers of bad police. You know, the Karens and Darrens, the ones who have 911 on speed dial. What's really aggravating about the average American bootlicker is they're not satisfied giving up their own rights to the police, which they do willingly and often. They expect the rest of us to do it too. And that's how bootlickers put all of us at risk. Because of what they do, they train the police to expect instant obedience no matter what. Just comply. Well, you must have something to hide. And what happens is someone like me comes along, someone like you comes along and says, not so fast. I know my rights. I'm not giving up my rights to some government clown. And we get hurt in the process. Guess who the average bootlicker blames? Us, not the police. But the most malignant trait of them all is the way that the average American bootlicker, let's say one that lives in Aurora, Colorado, for example, could pick up a newspaper, be reading it down in their den, and read the story about what the police did to Elijah McClain, and automatically think, well, whatever the guy did, he must have had it coming. That's what makes the average American bootlicker my enemy.